Welcome, everyone. I'm excited to be with you today, especially since it is the middle of the summer. And so I know that many of you are out of your classrooms and everything by now. And so thank you for, especially thank you for joining us today. But as I said, I'm excited to be with you for today's presentation and introduce you to TELL, the Test of English Language Learning, which is an award-winning digital assessment. And I'm sure and I'm hopeful that when we go through this presentation in this program, you're going to discover that it's unlike anything you've ever seen or used before. So to get started, let me go to the next screen. So to get started, I wanted to kind of share this screen with you here, because in order for us to, or anybody to measure any success in whatever we do, we must have the proper tools to help us evaluate our achievement toward a desired goal or desired results. And it's really no different with our English language learners. Not being able to monitor our students' language proficiency towards desired outcomes throughout the year is really like starting a weight loss program without a scale. So TELL is that tool. It's your scale for measuring students' language proficiency progress throughout the school year. And that's really so that we're ensuring that students are acquiring the necessary skills towards proficiency. Just like if we're starting that weight loss program, we really need to have that scale to make sure that we are making that progress towards our desired goals. So in today's presentation, we're going to cover what is TELL. We're going to look at the specific item types that are within TELL, but then I'm going to take you in live because there's nothing more exciting, and hopefully my technology will work. But like as I'm going through the internet, but there's nothing more exciting than seeing the program live and seeing. So I'll walk you through some of those item types live. Then we're going to talk about the automated scoring within the program. We'll talk about what the scores in the report, the different reports, and what type of scoring we have in the program. We'll look at how TELL can save you time and resources, and then we're going to recap, and then we'll take questions and answers. And I will stop periodically throughout the program or throughout the presentation to take any questions. But if you have questions, please don't hesitate to enter them into your chat box or your question box at I believe it's on the lower left-hand side of your screen. Please go ahead and enter those as they come up, and as I stop for questions, I'll go and address those, as many questions as I can. Okay, we're going to start out with what is TELL. And so TELL, when we created TELL in the vision, we leveraged our research-based automated scoring technologies that we have for in our other programs for an ELL assessment. We made it tablet-based so students can self-administer the test, and that it can be used in 3 areas. So it can be used as a screener, a diagnostic, and a progress monitoring. So again, it's research-based, it's a self-administered test, it's automatically scored, which those things right there are going to save you time. But we leveraged the technology that we had into developing this assessment. It's broken down into 5 grade bands that you're seeing there on the screen. So it spans through grades K through 12. And we have a total of 21 item types. And so those item types were developed to measure social and academic language. But even though TELL wasn't designed to evaluate content, we have many items that were developed to measure social and academic language. And so you can see on that screen again, so we're looking at the social and academic language in areas such as language of language arts, mathematics, science, and social studies. So when we were looking at the need of English language learners and what we were hearing from our schools, we decided to develop TELL to address a really important need of being able to monitor progress of our English learners. We found that most districts have ways to screen their students, but there didn't really seem to be a way to get immediate results that would really target individualized instruction and measure progress during that academic year. So to provide for that, TELL provides a very robust solution whereby districts can use pre- and post-diagnostics to measure progress over the year, and then we have various progress monitoring tests that you can use to provide that immediate results to accurately monitor the student's progress and allow teachers to make those necessary instructional decisions so that our students can be as successful and have successful outcomes. So this is really the sweet spot of TEL. It's that progress monitoring, it's that scale, it's that tool so that you are measuring the students throughout the year, making sure that the instructional solutions that you're providing, that they're making the greatest gains with those. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and, so that was just kind of really high level, like brief shot of what is TEL. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look at each one of the assessments that I mentioned within TEL. So the screener, the beginning of the year and end of the year diagnostics, and the progress monitoring. So the first one we're going to start out with is a screener. The screener identifies students who require services. So that's going to be your initial screener that you give to students to see if they require any services. It can also be used as a secondary screener to if you already have a state screener. And then students can, generally will complete the test within about 30 minutes or less. But what's really powerful and beneficial is that your results are going to be available within just minutes. So that's the screener. Next, we have the diagnostic, and the diagnostic is going to be the most robust of the three tests that we have within TEL. So we have two. So one's going to be taken at the beginning of the year, and one will be taken at the end of the school year. And the first one is, again, going to be to determine that baseline proficiency of your students. And then when you measure your students at the end of the year, that second one is going to measure their annual growth. So this is going to take about a full class period to administer for students. And again, the powerful part is in the data that you're going to get in just minutes after the students complete the test. And then the third assessment that we have within the program, as I said, is the progress monitoring, and that's really the unique part of TEL. As no other test can progress monitor students the way that TEL can. So there are 8 forms, which means that you can administer one each month in the academic school year if you'd like. It only takes about 20 to 30 minutes or so to administer, and once again, you're going to get those immediate results. So you're going to have reports within just minutes. But more importantly, it's going to really give you that and provide you with that key data to inform your instruction. So, which is going to be that key piece that is essential to understanding and helping your students become English proficient. So right now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the item types that are within TEL. I want to give you just a good sense and background of what's being assessed before we go in and look in live into the program. So there are a total of 21 item types within TEL, and those were developed to measure, again, the social and academic language. We have, as you can see kind of on the left-hand side of the screen, those are the item types, and on the right-hand side of the screen, those are going to be the grade bands that those item types are presented in. And so we have repeat the sentence, describe the video, listen and act, read and act, order the sentence. You're going to get find the error, complete the sentence, act by speaking, and I'm not reading all of them. But they're going to have write about a picture, read the word. They're going to have read and summarize, watch and explain. So you can see there's many different types and that are covering, and as I'm going to go further, we're going to talk about the domains that it covers. And so what I'd like to kind of show you what a sample screener, so these next few slides are going to show you what a sample test looks like for each one of the 3 assessments that we have. But one of the things I want you to look at why we're going through that is the domains tested column, and which is on the right-hand side of your screen. Because when we look at this, we're looking at what we can see is that TEL is designed that because of the way TEL is designed, our technology is able to assess more than one skill for many of our item types. So a lot of our item types it assesses for integrated skills. And so as we see in the sample screener here for grades 3 to 5, when I look at repeat the sentence, that is going to give scores on listening and speaking for the students. Read aloud and answer, reading and speaking. And so many of our item types are going to be able to score assess our students for more than one skill during that question, and so we don't have to then give more questions or take longer in the assessment because we're able to do both in that with the technology. So you can see here there's the number of items that the students will be presented with, the types of items that they're going to be presented with in the screener, and then those domains that are being tested for the students. This is an example of the sample diagnostic. Again, you're going to see the number of items. You're going to see the different item types, and then the different domains that is being tested. And then in our progress monitoring, you can see a sample progress monitoring, again, the number of item types, the time that it takes for that, and the domains tested. All right. So again, that's just to give you a little preview of the different items that we have within there and the integrated skills. What we're going to do now is we're going to actually go live into the program so that you can see what some of those item types look like. So if you will, please allow me 1 second, and I'm going to go ahead and switch to my iPad. So what I'm doing, I'm just going to go ahead and mirror my iPad. And just so you know, too, when I'm mirroring the iPad, because we're going through ReadyTalk and everything, the web connection, depending on how the web connection is, some of the video might here we go. Might be a little, maybe it could be a little, what's the word I'm looking for? Could be a little choppy. And so just so you know that when you're looking at the iPad yourself, and the students are going through the assessment, it's very seamless and smooth and everything. So just want to, ahead of time, make sure that that you know that it could be the fact that it's going through the internet if you see any choppiness or delays on your side. Okay. So Sherry, can you see my screen, my iPad screen?
No, it still says
okay.
demo.
Okay, so it's because I didn't share my screen. So let me go ahead and share. There, now you can you see it?
Perfect.
Awesome. Okay, great. So I am on TEL is a tablet-based assessment. And so I am on an iPad here, and so I've downloaded the app, and this is something that you can do as well. You can download the app free from the Apple Store or the Google Play Store. And then when you download it, there is a practice area. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the practice section here. And so what you can see when you go on the practice section is that there are my 5 grade bands, my K, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 8, 9, 12. And so you can tap on any of those and see the different item types that are in each one of those grade bands. What we're going to do is we're going to go through a few of the items in each one of the grade bands so you can just see the different item types. You can see how some of those item types progress in difficulty as we go through the program. So we're going to go ahead and start in grade K first. And so what you can see when you go into grade K is there are 9 different item types. So there's listen and act, say the word, repeat the sentence, listen and retell, pick the right picture, and so on and so forth. You can read those on the screen, but those are the 9 item types that we have there. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to click on item 1, which is listen and act.
Touch the farmer. Touch the big cow. Touch the hay.
So hopefully what you saw in this, so this is actually one of our items that this is really, it's really great because it's approachable by even students who have productive skills that are very weak. because it's allowing the students to show their understanding by using gestures. And so, many times when we're delivering a more traditional test that requires a student to be one-on-one with a teacher or someone, it really requires the students to use their language to show their understanding. And when students' productive skills are weak, they may not be able to show what they understand due to that, the lack of oral proficiency. So this item type really allows us to show, to accurately score receptive skills for the students. And so hopefully what you saw is that it was giving me the directions I was pressing. Hopefully you saw the pen pop out, and then the students press the next to go on to the next item there. Okay, so now let's see. We'll show one more in here. We're going to go to number 2, which is say the word.
Say what's in the picture.
So in this item here, we're showing that in some ways it's going to be opposite of the previous item. So this in the sense that this is going to show, and I should have said, so black umbrella, this is an umbrella, umbrella. That's all different responses that students could have responded to that. But again, so we're asking students to, we're requiring them to produce oral skills. As you saw, it showed a picture. The students need to identify what it is by, uttering words or the word or a phrase that is appropriate. So again, in that case, it was umbrella. This is an umbrella. It is an umbrella. It's a black umbrella. All are going to be correct responses that our auto-scoring can go ahead and pick up and detect. So those are a couple items in grade K that I wanted to show. We're going to go ahead and go into grade bands 1 and 2. And so here you can see there are 12 item types that students can be presented with or will be presented with. So you have listen and act and repeat the sentence, listen and retell again. We have describe the video, pick the right word, complete the sentence, write about the picture. You can read the rest of them, but those are just some. These are the item types that the students are going to see when they're in this grade band. So we're going to go ahead and go to a different activity. We're going to go to number 4 on here, which is describe the video.
Watch this video.
So the students here are going to get a silent video that they need to watch, and this is going to be a very open-ended activity or question.
Now, watch this video again and be ready to describe what happened when it's over.
And so we might have students that have very poor language proficiency. They may say something like duck, girl, father, park, just using words to describe the video. While other students with stronger command of the language might use full sentences.
Use complete sentences to describe what happened in the video.
So they're going to see the video twice, and then they'll be able to go ahead and explain. So like I said, some might just say duck, girl, father, park. Some might use full sentences and say something like, it is a beautiful day. A girl and her dad are feeding the ducks, or go into more description about the age of the students or whatever. She looks happy, etc. So they're going to say, hopefully we're seeing the microphone, the green microphone going. That's recording my response as a student as I'm going through that. So again, with our automated scoring, and we'll talk about how that is trained by several hundred responses and by both native and non-native speakers as we talk about scoring a little bit later. But because of our automated scoring, we're able to accurately and reliably score those open-ended oral responses like the ones here of this activity type of like the silent video, like this item type. Okay, so that was, again, describe the video. Now we're going to go into item number 7, which is read and act.
Read the sentence silently to yourself and then do what it says.
So this is going to be an item where students can show their understanding of language by using gestures, just like we saw in the kindergarten. However, we're going to see how this has kind of progressed. So like in this item, we are actually having to read, touch the bat, and then act. So now we're looking at, in the previous one in kindergarten, they had to comprehend oral speech. Now we're looking at how they comprehend, written language. Okay, so here it says touch the hat on the cat, but if I don't read the whole sentence and I just touch the hat, we can see it still moves the gesture, but it doesn't indicate whether a student is right or wrong. So, and that is by design. So we don't want the student to know, how they are doing. We want them to forget that they were doing a test, and so, a lot of them will want to play again. So here, touch the rat on the mat. So you can see they're getting multiple. Some of them can, as we move further and get more complex in them, we're going to see ones that actually have us do multiple steps and stuff. So so this is a next step up from that just listening, listen, act, that's the read and act, so that they're using more skills that way. All right, so with that, we're going to go on to, that's a couple in grade bands 1 and 2. We're going to go into 3 through 5. Let that load. And here you can see the 10 different item types that we have there. Again, we have some of the same ones, the listen and act, and we have speak in the situation, repeat the sentence, read the passage, read and act. So we're getting a little bit more into some of the reading, read and summarize. So we can see that the item types are also progressing with the level of the student. We are going to go into, we're going to go into number 5, which is watch and explain.
Listen to this lesson on science.
Today, we are going to learn about what happens to lake fish in winter. In some parts of the world, the winters are so cold that the water in lakes becomes ice. But what about the fish? Do they get stuck in the ice? No, they don't. In winter, some fish swim to the deepest part of the lake because the deepest part of the lake usually does not freeze. Other fish swim to warmer lakes through rivers before the lake freezes.
Okay, now listen again. Listen to this lesson on science.
Today, we are going to learn about what happens to lake fish in winter.
So I'm going to go ahead and mute that while it's going through the second time there. So all of our instructions will go ahead and play twice for the students. So when we're looking at this item, this is where we bring in that academic language in there. So this is a lesson on science, and so what we're really wanting to do is make sure that the students are understanding and able to produce academic vocabulary. So it's going to play a second time for the students. We know that this can be an item that might be a little bit harder for our English language learners, but because we score that wide range.
What you learned about what happens to lake fish in the winter.
So sorry, I didn't click that over quickly enough, but here, so it's, what is it? So now they're going to retell. They're going to explain what happens to the lake fish in the winter. And so, again, what I was saying is because we can score that wide range of answers, even the very simplest ones can use information on the student's language proficiency. So once I'm done explaining, click next.
Why do fish swim to the deepest part of the lake in winter?
And so here, then it's giving them a comprehension question. So not only are we having them kind of retell what they learned, but now they're going to have to answer a comprehension question. So that was the listen and retell. We're going to go to item number 8 right now, which is put the word in the sentence.
Move the word into the right place to complete the sentence.
So here the students are going to go ahead and they're going to they're going to touch the iPad with the word, and they're going to drag the word wherever they want. They put it in the first place of the sentence. It's going to go ahead and capitalize that word. They can put it anywhere into the sentence. Okay, so in order though for them to place it at the right spot, they really have to have a knowledge of grammar and vocabulary. So that knowledge of grammar and vocabulary are going to play a key role, because it's going to be very hard for them to put the word in the right place if they don't understand the words in the sentence, as well as the word that they're trying to place. So that's what we're looking for in this section here, and what we're assessing on. Okay. So we're going to go ahead. So those are a couple examples in grades 3 through 5. We're going to go into 6 through 8. And here you can see the 10 different types of item types that we have for here. You can see that there's the read and summarize again, read the passage, read and act, put the word in sentence, listen and act. But again, these are going to be developing and more complex than the grade band before. So we are going to, so just to kind of show you, we're going to go ahead and go into number 9, complete the sentence.
Write one word to complete the sentence.
So here, instead of what we did in the last exercise, which was, put the word in the appropriate place, here we're going to go ahead. We have to read and comprehend the sentence and then choose the right word within that sentence. So when I click on the box, it's going to pull up my keyboard. So Amy always blanks blue jeans and plaid shirts. Always wears. Okay. So when we're looking at that, so again, rather than having them select and put the word in the right spot, they're going to have to use their productive skills to complete the sentence. So they're going to need to know how to spell the word. That they would like to use. They also had, in that sense, they had several options. So I put wears, but it could have been Amy always buys, or Amy always likes to wear blue jeans, and whatever the sentence was. But in all the cases, whatever word that they choose, the verb has to correspond with that pronoun. So it has to be buys instead of buy, or wears instead of wear. So that is what we're looking at. And again, because of automated scoring, it doesn't matter what word that they choose as long as it's in the right, the verb corresponds with the pronoun and that it makes sense in the sentence. Okay, and now we're going to go into the read and summarize so you can get a little...
Read this passage to yourself. Then summarize the story in the text box. Once you tap into the text box, the story will disappear. You have 3 minutes to read the story before the story disappears. Okay, so what I wanted to show you is how our items are starting to get, more and more complex. Again, with this item here, now the students are being asked to read the text, and they will need to read and comprehend, and then so they have 3 minutes. They don't have to take the whole 3 minutes. Once I'm done reading, I press next. It's going to prompt me to say, are you ready to write your summary? And then you press OK, because again, it said that the text would disappear. So here, the text disappears. I'm going to go ahead and type my summary, click next. Rainforest.
Oh, sorry, the volume didn't come up on time with that. So it's going to pose them with a question, and I understand, I have something wrong with my iPad, and so they're replacing it. So all of my question does not show up for this, but it talks about how much of the rainforest is
covers the earth, or something like that is the question. So the whole question would be presented to the students. They would go ahead and type their answer into the box again and click next. And so that is an example of the read and summarize. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to talk about on that exercise there. So again, so they're going to read, they're going to summarize, and they're going to go ahead and answer a specific question, comprehension question on there. Okay, and so let's go into our final grade band, 9 through 12. If you have any questions, please go ahead and type those into the question box, or if there's any other items that you might want to see, go ahead and I'll try to show those and get to those. As soon as I'm done with this 9 through 12, I'll go ahead and stop and see if there are any questions. So here, in 9 through 12, you can see the 10 different types of activities that are item types that students are going to interact with or engage with. And so we're going to go into number 3, which is speak in the situation.
You planned to work on homework with your friend tonight, but you caught a cold and don't want to get your friend sick. You need to call your friend to let her know. What do you say to her?
Okay, now listen again.
You planned to work on homework with your friend tonight, but you caught a cold and don't want to get your friend sick. You need to call your friend to let her know. What do you say to her?
Okay, so in this, it's going to go ahead and record what I would say. But this is speak in the situation. And so because this is, so we're looking at appropriate speech for this situation. In this case, this is a girl talking to her friend. Now, she probably wouldn't call. We know she probably would text. But however, that aside, we know that, this would not be appropriate to be too formal. And so this is friend talking to friend. So they have to be able to think about their audience and then think of an appropriate way to respond. So, that's what we're looking for in that item. So we're going to go, and I'm going to go into listen and retell in number 4, because I want to really show you again how the test is progressing in complexity, and also how it's bringing in some more of that academic language.
When it's your turn, tell the story in your own words.
The math teacher has a special project for her students this week. She would like them to apply math to a practical problem, building a suspension bridge. She wanted her students to see if the math formulas accurately predicted how strong the different kinds of bridges would be. First, the students went to the school library to research the structure of suspension bridges and the mathematical formulas that apply to those structures. Next, the students looked up pictures on the internet of the bridges they wanted to build and calculated how strong they should be. They spent the next week constructing model bridges with string, toothpicks, and glue. Finally, they tested the strength of the bridges. The math was right. Bridges that were supposed to be stronger really were.
Okay, now listen again.
The math teacher.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and mute it while it's going again. But hopefully, what you're seeing is that this item is really becoming, or is cognitively and language demanding, and will be for our students. And, it's important that we understand that as we're going up in the grade level, the items are going to become more and more challenging, and that is really by design. And we're expecting our English language learners to have some difficulty with this. If they didn't, they probably wouldn't need to, be in an English language program. And so, just that, I'll go ahead and unmute it so we can hear how to follow up there.
And glue. Finally, they tested the strength of the bridges. The math was right. Bridges that were supposed to be stronger really were.
Now, tell the story in your own words.
So here, this is where they're going to have the opportunity. They'll see all the pictures to tell the story in their own words. You can see the microphone going in green. You can see the timer on the right-hand side, and hopefully you've noticed that timer throughout the demo here, and it goes into red when the timer is going out. So we'll go ahead and click Next after that. So that is just a little high-level overview of some of the items and what they look like when students are interacting. Again, we don't show the students, if they've gotten anything wrong. We want them to have fun with this. We want them to forget that it's an assessment, and many do when they think it's a game and they want to play and take it over again. But also what we're seeing in these, and we're seeing the complexity of the item types moving from gray band to green band. We see the social and academic language brought in there for us to assess the different skills that we're assessing within there, whether it's grammar and spelling and their productive skills and their reading comprehension. So all of that is being taken into consideration. And then hopefully you saw with some of these item types as well, those integrated skills. So especially in that just for example, that one sentence where they had to fill in the blank. We're looking at the different skills. They're reading, they're comprehending that information. They have to pick the right verb and tense and everything like that as they're going on, or some of the other ones that are bringing in those different skill sets. So, Sherry, we're going to go ahead and go back into the presentation. Are there any questions, though, first before?
No questions at this time.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and what are you seeing at this time? Are you seeing the PowerPoint again, or are you seeing my screen?
Slide 18.
So you see the slide that says demo?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so that was the demo. So next in our line of what we're doing, we're going into automated scoring. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the automated scoring. And so this is really a unique feature within TEL. It is for both spoken and written responses. So both spoken and written responses are automatically scored. Again, even though TEL is a newer program, the technology behind TEL and within TEL is not. The technology has been researched and validated, and it's been operationalized for more than a decade. So it is the technology is actually a part of Pearson's automated language assessments and language instructional systems. And so again, it's been around for a while. It's very reliable and in both spoken and written. So we'll go ahead and just kind of talk about that a little bit. So for our spoken responses that are automatically scored, the spoken responses are based on our patent and Versant testing system. And so this uses a speech processing system that is optimized for speech from native and non-native speakers. So it takes into account both native and non-native speakers. It recognizes words as well as relevant segments, syllables, phrases in speech. So it's going to recognize all of that. And then it's going to use a statistical modeling technique to assess spoken performance of the test taker. And so this technology that's based, like I said, on our Versant system, this is actually used internationally for, it's in many programs of, for people like in professions, say like airplane pilots, that if they're international pilots, they have to know certain languages, and English is one of them. And so this technology is used to assess that those pilots have a good, strong background and that can be able to communicate efficiently in English. And so that's just one of the ways in which this technology is used that we have within TEL. For our written responses, we use something that's called latent semantic analysis. And so this is a statistical language learning theory and computer model. And basically what it does is it measures semantic similarity of words. And so accuracy of this really closely approximates that of humans. And so what happens is like if I'm typing something, if I'm writing something, and I'm using the word physician, surgeon, doctor, the semantic similarities between those are very similar, and so there's using that theory and the statistical language learning theory, whatever like that, are able to go ahead and make judgments about what the students are writing. And so again, this is something that's been implemented. This technology is not only in TEL and is not new to TEL. It's been something that's been implemented into many high-stakes testing contexts as well as instructional programs throughout the country and stuff. So just wanted to just give a high level without going too technical into the automated scoring, but just so that there is there's maybe a little understanding of the scoring technology that's in there to give a little bit confidence too that it is reliable and valid when administering this test. So now we're going to move on to scoring and reporting. And so as I shared, TEL is made up of the 3 tests. There's the single screener, and probably what I didn't really necessarily talk about are the types of scores that you get with the test types there. So with the screener, you're going to get an overall score of how the student has performed. With the 2 diagnostics, as I said, that's going to be your most robust test or whatever, and that's because it's not only going to give you an overall score, it's going to give you domain scores and sub-skill scores. So it's going to give you the domain scores of scores for listening, speaking, reading, and writing, as well as some of those sub-skill scores that we talked about, like grammar, spelling, fluency, and so forth. And then we have the progress monitoring, and that's going to go ahead and give you the overall score as well as domain scores. So you can see kind of the differences of the scoring that is provided by each one of those. So when we're looking at our scoring, though, whether we're looking at overall domain or sub-skill scores, the scores are going to remain the same on the same scale within each grade band. So this is going to really give you more of an equal comparison between like your screener, your diagnostic, and your domain score. So you'll know they're equally weighted, so you'll be able to tell how the students are doing in each one of those areas. Now, we use a consecutive scaling system within TEL, which is kind of unlike most others as well. A lot of them will have each grade band go from maybe 100 to 600. But as you can see on your screen there, we have score scales and a score scaling system within there that is more consecutive. And so that's really going to allow for better comparison within the grade band. So if your student is tested in kindergarten, for say, only the scores taken that year can be compared to show the progress. But if I see a score of 150, I'm going to know that that student's a kindergarten student, and I'll be able to better understand what that score means in the scale system. So, but you really only compare the scores between the grade bands. So when you have your same student that enters first grade, they're going to get a whole different scaling system. And that's because many of your item types will also be different, and so the new scores can only be really compared between that first and second grade band and so on. So again, one advantage of this type of consecutive scaling is that anyone can tell in which grade that level band that student was tested in simply by the scores. And again, like any score between 100 and 200 would indicate that that student is in kindergarten. Now, looking at the proficiency levels, so the proficiency levels are based on levels that you're probably mostly familiar with, but there are so many, different states and different testing has different, indicators for proficiency levels, and so do we. So our proficiency levels are really aligned just with TEL. However, you're going to notice that there's obviously some overlap in what you're probably using. So again, they're based on levels that you're already familiar with. So we have limited, basic, intermediate, high, and advanced. They are available for each one of the scales. So for your overall score or your domain scores or your subskill scores, those proficiency levels are provided for your students there. And then, consecutive scaling, proficiency levels, again, they're unique to TEL, but they're familiar, and there is overlap with probably whatever that you are using. All right. So moving on into reporting, we have two main types of reports. We have the list report, and then we have an aggregate report. And so the list report is going to be more of that roster style type of report. It's going to list all your students in the class, and it's going to give you the ability to zoom in on scores for a particular student that you're interested in viewing in the list. And then we have the aggregate report, and those are going to give you aggregated scores based on selected criteria that you may choose. So proficiency level, gender, years in ELL service, as you see there. And then we also have a longitudinal report and a parent report. And so the longitudinal report is going to give you the ability to see multi-year progress reports of your students, and then the parent review as something that you'll be able to print out for parents and be able to share their students' progress with them. So we're going to go ahead and take a little bit deeper look at some of these reports and show you some of the data that you get within TEL. So we're first going to look a little bit closer at the list report here. And so pretty much after you've conducted a TEL assessment, the first place that you're probably going to likely go and visit is the list report. And so here we can see that when a teacher is looking at all grade 1 students in here, they have chosen the diagnostic beginning of the year. Sorry, it's a little small on my end here. So beginning of the year test, and we're pulling up the results for that. So we pull up so we see that there's just kind of really quickly. So we can see this is at the upper kind of we see the report that we chose, the beginning of the year diagnostic. Underneath that, you can see the proficiency levels here. So you can see the limited, the basic, intermediate, so on and so forth. And above that, you can also see the score points for each one of for those proficiency levels. And so they're color-coded so that when you're looking at the report, you can by the color indicated that you can understand what proficiency level your students are in. So you have your list of students here. You can order them in different ways by clicking. You can pull up different criteria here. But basically, you're going to see each student. You're going to see their overall score, and then that's going to be indicated by the bar graph here and the color, as well as the color and the actual score. So you can see exactly where in that band that student is at. And then you're also going to see on the list report, you're going to see their domain scores for listening, speaking, reading, and writing, and where they fall in proficiency levels for that. Now, what I can do from here is I can click on any of the domain scores. And so let me go to the next page here. So when I click on one of the domain scores, what I see here is that it pulls up a little index card for me. And so this little index card will go ahead and show the proficiency level and the color grade band there. So I can see that this is intermediate. It's going to tell me also the grade level of the students. It's going to tell me, so in this intermediate level here, it's going to give me a little description of what that student was able to do. We go down here, we can see that this was the beginning of the year diagnostic. We can see their overall score for that domain, and then we can see the actual subskill scores for that domain. So this is what's really going to help drive your instruction to see where your students are at. So I can look in here and I can see where do they fall, and what area is really maybe giving them some issues or where they're struggling with, and focus my instruction on that. So this is really great, and this is what makes TEL really powerful when you get that immediate the scores with it just in minutes, because you have this rich data to go ahead and give you a starting point of where to start with your students as where to start your students with their instruction as they move forward, and kind of gauge that. So when you're live in the system, the report is very interactive. So as you click on things, you'll be able to get pop-ups and such. So what we also have, so depending on what state you're in and what your state summative assessment is, we also have concordance tables. So we have the ability, what we've done is we've done some alignments with what is being tested for, in this example, in WIDA, compared to what we're being tested in TEL. We've taken data from both and been able to make a concordance table, be able to predict if your student's doing 256 in TEL, this is what it would correspond with in WIDA, a 299, so that you can better have a comparison to see how your students are going to be able to do at the end of the year on your specific summative assessment. And so again, so that's something that when your administrator or whatever is setting up the program, they can go ahead and say that you want a comparison for, in this example, WIDA, and then your scores will show side by side for the overall score of how your students are doing for that test. Now, if you're not a WIDA state, we also have, and then here's proficiency levels. So there's your cut scores of whether they're needing services or maybe not needing services. But if you're in Texas and TELPUS, we also have a concordance predictor table that compares our score with the TELPUS score. We also have SELF, so for those of you in California, as well as Azella for those of you in my home state of Arizona. So just a great way to, as you're looking at your scores and wanting to align what do our scores, really mean compared to your summative scores. And we do have actual concordance tables that kind of goes in deeper into those areas. So again, you're clicking, for those, you were clicking on the overall score. When you clicked on the overall score, it would go ahead and show you the comparison if you had it set up that way. In the list view, remember we had all of the students on the left-hand side. Well, if I click on an actual student, remember it's interactive. If I click on an actual student, it's going to go ahead and take me to their individual report and provide a line graph of the student's progress over time. So this is just the top section of the report that we have, but what you can see are these little color dots. Those do correspond with the proficiency levels, and then they'll have the, the actual, whether it's the beginning of the year or progress monitoring or what test this is. It'll have the date. It'll have a section for you to be able to include notes on there of how your students have done and whatnot. You can go ahead and click on each one of these dots. It will pull up one of those index cards as well. So very interactive, giving you the information that you need, again, to guide instruction. Now, there is also the ability to be able to compare scores. So if I want to compare the beginning of the year to the end of the year, see what how my students, what gains that they've made in a side-by-side come, or how they did from one progress monitor to the next, or the beginning of the year to the progress monitoring, whatever you want to compare, whatever two reports, what you do if you're looking at the back slide here, and we have the beginning of the year, and then you can see it says compare to, and then there's another drop-down menu, and showing what test you want to choose. Once you do that, then what you can see here is the screen with the side-by-side. Now, I have to update this screen, I'm just noticing now, because we just changed it so that the first score that the student received would be in gray on the bar graph, and then it will go ahead and show the color of how much the color that they progressed with, so that you can kind of see the growth for that student on the bar graph. But what you can see as you move over to the right in the scores is you're going to see side-by-side scores. So you're going to see what their first test score was compared to what the second test score that you generated. And you'll be able to see that for overall and then all for the domains. And again, this is interactive, so when you click on it, that information will go ahead and show as well. And that brings us to the aggregate report. And so that's just a little overview of the kind of the list report and what you can kind of do with the list report. With the aggregate report here, again, you can choose the various or whatever criteria that you want to view with the aggregate report, and then there's different views here that you do. So it's going to provide that composite view of your results, and again, it's going to be for one assessment, and it's going to be grouped according to the criteria that you selected. And so we do have that capability. So that's the list in the aggregate reports. Here in the aggregate report, here's the demographic information that you can go ahead and the categories that you can choose to aggregate your data from. And so any one of those can be selected. And then now we're moving into the longitudinal report. So remember I said we have list and aggregate reports, but then we also have longitudinal and parent reports. And so the longitudinal report, again, is going to provide you that student data that's going to and progress over several years of use. And then again, this is going to be multiple pages, and it's going to give the parents whatever notes that you might have typed in. It'll show for the parent report. It'll show exactly as you scroll down. It'll give, and you can see on the side there, it'll tell them what each one of those proficiency levels mean, and they can see the student score over time as well for the longitudinal. And then for the parent report, it'll do the same thing. Now the parent report is the one with the notes in it and such. Well, they both have notes. But this parent report is also going to allow you to share the results that you have with the students on the students' progress. And then these are also available in Spanish and Chinese. And so anything that's pre-populated in the report, not your notes. If you can write in Spanish or Chinese, then you can type that in there, and then that'll print out for the parents that way. But otherwise, anything you type in English will stay in English, but the report that's generated and showing all the scores, and again, this is multiple page report, can be printed in Spanish or Chinese. Now, each one of these reports can be downloaded or exported into an Excel. And so basically, you just go ahead and export. It walks you through that export. So again, if you have any questions, go ahead and list them down in the side there. We're getting to the end of the presentation. I just want to get to some time and resource savings and kind of go and just kind of recap what we kind of went over today in the session. But when we look at TEL, this is actually from one of our customers and information of what we have, but to look at time savings for teachers, proctors, and then also resource savings. And so when you look at a traditional test, you're looking at it's one-on-one, and it's a speaking evaluation, and then you have to do a one-on-one writing evaluation with the teacher. So everything's one-on-one. With TEL, you're able to do more of a group administered type of, you can, depending on the grade level, you can do up to 10 in one classroom for one proctor, one teacher. So there's a time savings there. You're also saving time because it's automatically scored instead of the teacher having to go back and score everything through. So when we look at the setup of using TEL, when we look at how long, you have to find someone to take your students or do something with your students so that you can be working one-on-one and paying attention, with the students and then evaluating afterward. When you look at, for a classroom of 30 students, it typically can take about 30 hours to get through a classroom doing the assessment for 30 students. 15 hours for 30 students. And then you can see if you are having to pay any proctors extra, whatever, you can see the cost there. When you look at TEL, to do that same classroom of 30 students takes about 2 hours. But really, one of the most important things, too, is you're getting that information right away. It's being automatically scored, so you know there's consistency in that as well. But you're getting that data right away so that you can go ahead and start your students right away where they need to be at their level, at their needs, and then you can monitor their progress throughout the program. So with that, that brings us to our just kind of a quick recap of the program for TEL. So again, it's fun, it's interactive, it's engaging, it's accurate, it's reliable, and it's really unlike any other assessment that your students have ever seen or used. That's for sure. It's the only one that lets you quickly monitor the English language learners' progress towards proficiency standards throughout the school term. TEL can make a real difference in your English language progress towards English language proficiency. It can increase access to curriculum and improve your students' rates of achievement because you're able to have that tool that's helping you monitor and make sure that they're on the right track and that they're on the right track. It's self-delivered on Android or iPad, tablet. It assesses listening, speaking, reading, and writing. It's fully automated scoring and immediate reporting. Again, helps you drive those data-driven decisions for your students. It's not only one test, but it's 3. It's a suite of assessments. It's got that screener, the beginning of the year and end of the year diagnostic, and up to 8 forms of progress monitoring for you to use. Again, it's 5 grade bands. It's K through 12, and it is aligned to WIDA, TELPAS, CELT, AZELA, and hopefully I'm not missing any there. So again, this is going to ensure, ensure that your students are making that adequate and timely progress. You get your documentation. You're going to be able to monitor throughout the year. So it's just really, it's going to provide that reporting and that data for you. So the outcomes of using TEL are going to help make the English learners make progress towards the English language proficiency, increase their access, again, to curriculum, and make a difference in their success. So with that, that brings us to the end of our presentation today. I thank you for joining me during your summer. I know some of you, you're off. Some of you are still in the main offices there. But hopefully you can see some of the benefits of TEL. Again, if you want to go ahead and go to the App Store and download the app, you can go ahead and download the app and go through those practice assessments. If you would like some more information, you can visit the pearsontel.com website, or you can go ahead and chat something into the feedback there or question in there, and we'll make sure that we get back to you if you want like a further demo for some of the other people, or if you want to look at the program a little bit more, or any other questions that you might have. Please go ahead and submit that, and we'll make sure that we follow up with you. But with that, again,